Thank you very much, my brother. Well, I would start the way a lot of event managers would do by maybe start talking about, their event's happy ending. I intend to talk to you about, the possible permutations and pitfalls festivals have before and after. As you're aware, fishing in Argungu and environments is a dominant economic sector for the indigents and residents, and it contributes significantly, to the gross domestic product of the state and employs high labor workforce. From within this occupational trade, comes the fishing sport, which is the Argungu Fishing Festival. And as you are no doubt aware, in 2016, UNESCO enlisted the festival, in its prestigious list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Of interest also is the declaration of the site itself by UNESCO as the World Heritage Site. Well, Argungu River is significant to socio-economic well-being of the people, given the fact that it generates employment and adds value to the national economy. An average of over 40,000 fishermen participate in the fishing event every year. The fishing festival, of course, is not every year, but at every Argungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival, So this leads to heavy depletion of fish in the water bodies along the river basins, Sokoto River, Rima River basins. This has serious impact on the, livelihood of several thousands of people who depend solely on fishing activities. Soon after these events, the depletion places much challenge to the people, and, government of this affected environment, also push so much pressure on the people of this area, by maybe putting an embargo for them and not to partake in any fishing activity, in order not to have the organizers fish, Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Aside that, there's also the issue of modern approach of improving fish breeding system, which has not met the desires of the fishing festival, competitors and event organizers in terms of replenishing depleted fish, as well as, meet festival largest, catch demand on annual basis. Equally, this community, the conservation is what my problem is. If every year 40,000 people embark, into the size of the stream, of the river, it's not too distant. So imagine 40,000 people going into that same river every year. That festival definitely is not going to be sustainable. So it's the sustainability. I'm looking at the future of the festival, which is at stake. So we need to take a proactive measure. And what is this proactive measure? I think it's very important that we establish, which I have started discussing with the federal government and also the state government, for us to rescue the festival by the establishment of sustainable aquatourism development sanctuary. As I mentioned to you earlier, the fishing activities affect destinations, socio-economic activities, and indirectly. The field of this challenge requires research innovations across whole spectrum of aquaculture and fisheries production systems, and associated value chains. To respond to this need, a new research program on fish agri-food system, which is to rescue the Nile perch, which is predominantly the species of the fish within the Argungu environment and the African catfish production. African catfish breeding, I think is very vital. By doing this, I think we should aim, to improve the annual supply of a large quantity of heavy-weighted and heighted Nile perch fish species on annual basis to sustain the hosting of the competition. That's, you see, the number one problem I foresee for the sustainability of the Argungu Fishing Festival. The second main, towards the sustainability is the engagement of, most festivals, I think, face that problem. It's not just us. Over involvement of government by, deploying civil servants to serve as committee members, instead of allowing experts, because a festival comes from a particular place, that does not mean that it must be manned by natives of that same place. And we should like the Argungu Fishing Festival, I doubt if the people of Argungu benefit more, on its existence, but rather the contiguous states like Niger and Sokoto state, because of the absence of proper accommodation. Government has not invested in accommodation, and the private sector too, because I believe I can't expect the government to really invest in, private businesses like hotels and restaurants, because whatever government does, from experience, I've seen that it has not really, survived. So maybe government should provide enabling environment for the private sector to invest in the indigents, can benefit from it. Because the only thing Argungu provides is the content, the fishing activity, and the venue. Immediately after that, people drive back to Sokoto, some to Birni-Kebbi, and move back to Argungu the following day. So it has no economic significance, I think, to the indigents. That also needs to be looked into, and well, now I think these two things, if we really look into them, the stocking of the Nile perch, maybe we have to come up with a sanctuary. The moment, maybe that one, it's capital intensive, but it's the only saving grace for the sustainability of the festival. Because, if you can have sanctuaries like very big ponds where maybe you can breed them, after some time you evacuate and, put them into the river, that's the only way, you can keep the festival afloat, to meet up the 40,000 people embarking into the river at the same time, struggling for the biggest catch. I think let us first of all look into what the major challenges are before we talk about, the how it's going to improve. I think we should first of all try and curtail these things from happening. Let us see how we can make it sustainable. That's my take. Thank you.
Someone has asked a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to dredge the river so that I can enlarge it? And my own question, is it possible that we can impound, maybe create a small dam so that the water moves a little back, but there might be consequences further down the river? And then the third question will be, is the government open to having this partnership with the private sector? Because it could be marketed, fish farms, all those things you talked about in the neighborhood could become not just the part of the festival, but also part of the ecosystem that sustains the festival. Because some people were complaining that the fish this year didn't meet the sizes of the ones that we have caught in the past. So is the government thinking along that line, or the organizers, or the people involved? So those are probably three questions that if we could have answers, we can talk about the future and the sustainability of the fishing festival.
Thank you very much. I think government is very open for partnership, and collaboration. And also there have been plans for dredging the river, and the exactly the sanctuary I was telling you about, that we should have, maybe we bring in experts. I think we can have ponds where we can breed these species that are about to be extinct, So it's the same thing as the dam in which you talked about. And Kebbi State government is really, ready with open arms, for any intending investor in connection with that. I think we are very much open, for investment.
I will say this: the biggest tourism pool in Africa is water. 60 to 70% of all tourism income in Africa comes from water environment. The top 10 destinations all base their tourism income on water. Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Victoria Falls for both, what's it called? Zimbabwe and co. Now, Argungu has water, has fish, which are popular products. The day I was in the tube in London, there's this free magazines, newspapers they share. And I picked up a copy of Metro. I can't remember which year was it. I went for WTF or another event. And I opened, there were 15 pages of pictures from Argungu Fishing Festival. And it was an amazing, I was so proud, I was so proud. Because the world loves fish, the world loves water, the world loves fishing activities. So you have a product that is already global. You just need a little bit of packaging. And just like Salome said, the difference between Shango and Thor is just packaging. And we could have the whole world come to Argungu. So I think that these are ideas you could work on with your people, and there are experts here who could help put this thing together. If you have a last word to share with us on what to expect in the coming years, there are tour operators here who could help market it. But first of all, there has to be consistency. We need to know the dates way ahead so people can package tours to come for these places. So if you have a lasting word, a parting word you share with us on what to expect and lessons learned. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. In addition to what you said regarding the publication you saw in London during the World Travel Market, the fishing festival, it's not just fishing happens to be the integral part of the activities, but there are other, parallel events which are equally important. It's the significance of the festival that matter. Fishermen, catch big fish, big sizes, and but it's the significance, the history behind it, the story behind it. Argungu Fishing Festival came into existence as, a truce between the Fulani when they decided to sheathe their swords, and live peacefully with one another. The then Sultan of Sokoto, Hassan Damuazu, paid the Emir of Argungu Sama'ila of that time, 1934, a visit. So to, commemorate his visit, he organized the fishing festival for him. And also they organized other local sports like wrestling, like local boxing, like archery. And so since, as from then onwards, it's just been tagged Argungu Fishing Festival, but it comes with other activities, like some of these things I've mentioned. Lately, we have also added events like polo, and we've also added essay, essay and quiz competitions for, secondary school and primary school students. And it's not just the fish, but, fish being the grand event, the one held at on the last day, the grand finale. So that's the significance. But those local sports, and one other important thing, you see, after the Civil War, the first event that took place, was the Argungu Fishing Festival then. And you see, imagine after the, Hausas, Yorubas, Igbos, were killing each other, and all of them converge into the same river. State, present-day Bayelsa State. So imagine all of them struggling to get the biggest catch, and no one tried to strangle other, well submerged. So it's the significance that matter, the storyline behind it. And I think tourism promoters can use that also because our museum too happens to be one of the best in the country, well stocked, and there's a lot to be done, but I really think we can come together, promote it, and maybe have investors to come and invest in the accommodation and, some of the things. No matter how beautiful or how amazing your event is, you can't invite people if you can't house them, if you can't accommodate them. I think we should look into that. We should look into how we can attract investors. Yes, of course, we have a very important content that we can use to bring in investors and tourists. So we should come collectively as one, to see how we can rescue this World Heritage event. Thank you.